African countries with the most external debts. Over half the countries in Africa are considered the poorest in the world. This is because the continent has a lower level of economic growth and success when compared to the other 6 continents of the world. This is a result of decades of bad leadership and political instability. Even though the continent is endowed with natural resources, many countries are still in abject poverty. One of the factors that determine the world of nations worldwide is the GDP per capita. GDP measures the purchasing power of each nation in the international market. GDP is an excellent indicator used to determine how rich or poor a country is. Welcome to Displore and thanks for watching. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and click on notifications to get notified every time we upload a new video. African states have been accumulating external debt at a rapid pace over the past decade, taking advantage of an abundance of low-cost international credit for budgetary and balance of payment support to help to drive development plans and for other purposes. The stock of total external debt held in Africa debt accrued by public and private sector entities and owed to foreign lenders surpassed $1 trillion, and related annual servicing costs broke through the $100 billion threshold for the first time in 2021. External debt remains highly concentrated in Africa. Today, Displore brings you the 15 African countries with the most external debt, from the least to the top. 10. Kenya. Kenya has a population of over 56,800,438. Kenya ranks poorly on the Fragile States Index at number 25 out of 178 countries, ranked in 2019, and is placed in the alert category. In 2014, the country's macroeconomic indicators were rebased, causing the GDP to shift upwards to low-middle-income country status. Despite government assurances to the contrary, the Kenyan government is currently broke and struggling to meet its financial obligations. Junior government employees at both national and county levels are the hardest hit and have not received their monthly salaries, benefits, and deductions for up to 6 months or more. There is conflicting data on the state of the economy from different government agencies, with official data not reflecting record inflation and very high prices of food and other basic commodities. Kenya has a Human Development Index of 0.555, ranked 145 out of 186 in the world. As of 2005, 17.7% of Kenyans lived on less than $1.25 a day. In 2017, Kenya ranked 92nd in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rating from 113th in 2016 of 190 countries. The important agricultural sector is one of the least developed and largely inefficient, employing 75% of the workforce compared to less than 3% in the food-secure developed countries. Kenya is usually classified as a frontier market or occasionally an emerging market, but it is not one of the least developed countries. Telecommunications and financial activity over the last decade now comprise 62% of GDP. 22% of GDP still comes from the unreliable agricultural sector, which employs 75% of the labor force. A small portion of the population relies on food aid. Industry and manufacturing is the smallest sector, accounting for 16% of GDP. The service, industry, and manufacturing sectors only employ 25% of the labor force, but contribute to 75% of the GDP. Kenya also exports textiles worth over $400 million under AGOA. External debt for 2017 was $26,929,600,434, a 28.01% increase from 2016. In 2018, $31,413,700,215, a 16.65% increase from 2017. In 2019, $34,941,393,888, an 11.23% increase from 2018. In 2020, $38,193,646,114, a 9.31% increase from 2019. 9. Ghana. The economy is a mixture of private and public enterprise. About 3/5 of the GDP is derived from the services sector. Agriculture contributes almost 1/5, and industry is about 1/4. Before independence, the government's role was confined mainly to the provision of such basic utilities as water, electricity, railways, roads, and postal services. Agriculture, commerce, banking, and industry were almost entirely in private hands, with foreign interests controlling the greater share in all of them except agriculture. Shortly after independence, the government set out to extend its control over the economy by establishing a large number of state-owned enterprises in agriculture and industry. To make up for the local shortage of capital and entrepreneurial skills, measures were adopted to attract foreign investors to operate independently or in partnership with the government. These policies did not achieve the desired results because of poor planning and corrupt administration. By 1966, when the administration of President Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, the heavy overseas borrowing upon which the government had relied to support its economic programs had dissipated almost all of the country's overseas reserves and had produced external and internal debts. The continued devaluation of the cedi over time, from 1.02 cedis to the US dollar in 1970 to 9,145 cedis to the US dollar in 2006, had mixed effects on both trade and the cost of living, but overall Ghana's economy had begun to recover by the 90s. Beginning in the late 90s, the government concentrated on improving economic stability and transparency, and it continued with privatization efforts. In the 21st century, Ghana, considered a model of African economic recovery and political reform, qualified for substantial debt relief measures, including relief from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund's heavily indebted poor country program in 2002, and the total debt forgiveness plan agreed upon by the Group of 8 country leaders in Gleneagles, Scotland in 2005. But by 2015, Ghana was suffering from a high debt burden, again of $1 billion. In 2017, external debt was at $22,212,841,568, a 5.48% increase from 2016. 2018 was not any better, with a recorded $23,173,792,492, a 4.33% increase from 2017. In 2019, it rose to $26,738,836,502, a 15.38% increase from 2018. In 2020, it was at $31,323,084,617, a 17.14% increase from 2019. 8. Malawi. Malawi is among the world's least developed countries. Around 85% of the population lives in rural areas. The economy is based on agriculture, and more than 1/3 of GDP and 90% of export revenues come from this. In the past, the economy has been dependent on substantial economic aid from the World Bank, IMF, and other countries. Malawi was ranked the 119th safest investment destination in the world in the March 2011 Euro Money Country Risk Rankings. In December 2000, the IMF stopped aid disbursements due to corruption concerns, and many individual donors followed, resulting in an almost 80% drop in Malawi's development budget. However, in 2005, Malawi was the recipient of over $575 million in aid. The Malawian government faces challenges in developing a market economy, improving environmental protection, dealing with the rapidly growing HIV and AIDS problem, improving the education system, and satisfying its foreign donors with whom it is working to become financially independent. Improved financial discipline had been seen since 2005 under the leadership of President Mutharika and Financial Minister Gondwe. This discipline has since evaporated, as shown by the purchase in 2009 of a private presidential jet, followed almost immediately by a nationwide fuel shortage, which was officially blamed on logistical problems, but was more likely due to the hard currency shortage caused by the jet purchase. In addition, some setbacks have been experienced, and Malawi has lost some of its ability to pay for imports due to a general shortage of foreign exchange, as investment fell 23% in 2009. There are many investment barriers in Malawi that the government has failed to address, including high service costs and poor infrastructure for power, water, and telecommunications. As of 2017, it was estimated that Malawi had a GDP PPP of $22.42 billion, with a per capita GDP of $1,200, and inflation estimated at 12.2% in 2017. Agriculture accounts for 35% of GDP, industry for 19%, and services for the remaining 46%. Malawi has one of the lowest per capita incomes in the world, although economic growth was estimated at 9.7% in 2008, and strong growth is predicted by the International Monetary Fund for 2009. The poverty rate in Malawi is decreasing through the work of the government and supporting organizations, with people living under the poverty line decreasing from 54% in 1990 to 40% in 2006, and the percentage of ultra-poor decreasing from 24% in 1990 to 15% in 2007. The economy of Malawi is predominantly agricultural. Over 80% of the population is engaged in subsistence farming, even though agriculture only contributed to 27% of GDP in 2013. The services sector accounts for more than half of GDP, 54%, compared to 11% for manufacturing and 8% for other industries, including natural uranium mining. Malawi invests more in agriculture as a share of GDP than any other African country, 28% of GDP. In 2017, external debt was $2,162,398,106, a 17.08% increase from 2016. In 2018, it increased to $2,265,713,574, a 4.78% increase from 2017. 2019 recorded another increase to $2,428,679,899, a 7.19% increase from 2018. And in 2020 was $2,943,281,967, a 21.19% increase from 2019. 7. Egypt. Egypt is the most populated country in the Arab world and the third most populous on the African continent, with about 95 million inhabitants as of 2017. Its economic conditions have started to improve considerably after a period of stagnation due to the adoption of more liberal economic policies by the government, as well as increased revenues from tourism and a booming stock market. In its annual report, the IMF has rated Egypt as one of the top countries in the world undertaking economic reforms. Some major economic reforms undertaken by the government since 2003 include a dramatic slashing of customs and tariffs. A new taxation law implemented in 2005 decreased corporate taxes. Egypt has received United States foreign aid since 1979, an average of $2.2 billion per year, and is the third largest recipient of such funds from the United States following the Iraq War. Egypt's economy mainly relies on these sources of income: tourism, remittances from Egyptians working abroad, and revenues from the Suez Canal, currently 20%, resulting in a stated 100% increase in tax revenue by 2006. Egypt's external debt for 2017 was $84,722,482,200, a 22.5% increase from 2016. For 2018 was $100,186,783,999, $63,064, an 18.25% increase from 2017. 2019 was $115,709,584,156, a 14.87% increase from 2018. And 2020 was $131,579,729,752, a 14.34% increase from 2019. 6. Congo. The Central Bank of the Congo is responsible for developing and maintaining the Congolese franc, which serves as the primary form of currency in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In 2007, the World Bank decided to grant the Democratic Republic of Congo up to $1.3 billion in assistance funds over the following 3 years. The Congolese government started negotiating membership in the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa, OHADA, in 2009. The DRC is widely considered one of the world's richest countries in natural resources. Its untapped deposits of raw minerals are estimated to be worth more than $24 trillion. The DRC has 70% of the world's coltan, a third of its cobalt, more than 30% of its diamond reserves, and a tenth of its copper. Despite such vast mineral wealth, the economy of the Democratic Republic of the Congo has declined drastically since the mid-1980s. The DRC generated up to 70% of its export revenue from minerals in the 1970s and 1980s, and was particularly hit when resource prices deteriorated at that time. By 2005, 90% of the DRC's revenues were derived from its minerals. Congolese citizens are among the poorest people on Earth. DR Congo consistently has the lowest or nearly the lowest nominal GDP per capita in the world. The DRC is also one of the 20 lowest-ranked countries on the Corruption Perceptions Index. External debt for 2017 was $5,083,895,442, a 1.24% increase from 2016. Meanwhile, in 2018 it was $4,955,691,894, a 2.52% decline from 2017. For 2019 was $5,617,843,790, a 13.36% increase from 2018. And 2020 was $6,137,246,433, a 9.25% increase from 2019. 5. Burkina Faso. The value of Burkina Faso's exports fell from $2.77 billion in 2011 to $754 million in 2012. Agriculture represents 32% of its GDP and occupies 80% of the working population. It consists mostly of rearing livestock. Especially in the south and southwest, the people grow crops of sorghum, pearl millet, corn, peanuts, rice, and cotton, with surpluses to be sold. A large part of the economic activity of the country is funded by international aid, despite having gold ores in abundance. The top 5 export commodities in 2017 were, in order of importance, gems and precious metals, $1.9 billion, 78.5% of total exports, cotton, $198.7 million, 8.3%, ores, slag, ash, $137.6 million, 5.8%, fruits, nuts, $76.6 million, 3.2%, and oilseeds, $59.5 million, 2.5%. A December 2018 report from the World Bank indicates that in 2017, economic growth increased to 6.4% in 2017 versus 5.9% in 2016, primarily due to gold production and increased investment in infrastructure. The increase in consumption linked to the growth of the wage bill also supported economic growth. Inflation remained low, 0.4% that year, but the public deficit grew to 7.7% of GDP. versus 3.5% in 2016. The government was continuing to get financial aid and loans to finance the debt. To finance the public deficit, the government combined concessional aid and borrowing on the regional market. The World Bank said that the economic outlook remained favorable in the short and medium term, although that could be negatively impacted. Risks included high oil prices, imports, lower prices of gold and cotton, exports, as well as a terrorist threat and labor strikes. Debt for 2017 was $3,166,766,916, a 10.58% increase from 2016. For 2018 was $3,317,745,778, a 4.77% increase from 2017. 2019 was $3,686,905,203, an 11.13% increase from 2018. Burkina Faso's external debt for 2020 was $4,494,781,777, a 21.91% increase from 2019. 4. Botswana. Since independence, Botswana has had one of the fastest growth rates in per capita income in the world. Botswana has transformed itself from one of the poorest countries in the world to an upper-middle income country. GDP per capita grew from $1,344 in 1950 to $15,015 in 2016. Although Botswana was resource abundant, a good institutional framework allowed the country to reinvest resource income in order to generate stable future income. By one estimate, it has the fourth highest gross national income at purchasing power parity in Africa, giving it a standard of living around that of Mexico. The Ministry of Trade and Industry of Botswana is responsible for promoting business development throughout the country. According to the International Monetary Fund, economic growth averaged over 9% per year from 1966 to 1999. Botswana has a high level of economic freedom compared to other African countries. The government has maintained a sound fiscal policy, despite consecutive budget deficits in 2002 and 2003, and a negligible level of foreign debt. It earned the highest sovereign credit rating in Africa and has stockpiled foreign exchange reserves, over $7 billion in 2005/2006, amounting to almost 2.5 years of current imports. External debts from 2017 to 2020. 2017 was $1,741,386,787, an 18.11% decline from 2016. 2018 was $1,782,037,130, a 2.33% increase from 2017. 2019 was $1,565,096,394, a 12.17% decline from 2018. 2020 was $1,597,427,935, a 2.07% increase from 2019. 3. Burundi. Burundi is the poorest country in the world according to GDP per capita, with $292 in 2022. The purchasing power of most Burundians has decreased as wage increases have not kept up with inflation. As a result of deepening poverty, Burundi will remain heavily dependent on aid from bilateral and multilateral donors. Foreign aid represents 42% of Burundi's national income, the second highest rate in sub-Saharan Africa. Burundi joined the East African Community in 2009, which should boost its regional trade ties, and also received in 2009 $700 million in debt relief. Government corruption is hindering the development of a healthy private sector as companies seek to navigate an environment with ever-changing rules. Lack of access to financial services is a serious problem for the majority of the population, particularly in densely populated rural areas. Only 2% of the total population holds bank accounts, and less than 0.5% use bank lending services. Microfinance, however, plays a larger role, with 4% of Burundians being members of microfinance institutions, a larger share of the population than that reached by banking and postal services combined. 26 licensed microfinance institutions offer savings, deposits, and short to medium-term credit. The dependence of the sector on donor assistance is limited. The statistics of her external debt from 2017 run as follows. 2017 was $1,741,386,787, an 18.11% decline from 2016. 2018 was $1,782,037,130, a 2.33% increase from 2017. 2019 was $1,565,096,394, a 12.17% decline from 2018. 2020 was $1,597,427,935, a 2.07% increase from 2019. 2. Angola. China is Angola's biggest trade partner and export destination, as well as the fourth largest source of imports. Bilateral trade reached $27.67 billion in 2011, up 11.5% year-on-year. China's imports, mainly crude oil and diamonds, increased 9.1% to $24.89 billion, while China's exports to Angola, including mechanical and electrical products, machinery parts, and construction materials, surged 38.8%. The oil glut led to a local price for unleaded gasoline of 0.37 pounds a gallon. The Angolan economy grew 18% in 2005, 26% in 2006, and 17.6% in 2007. Due to the global recession, the economy contracted an estimated 0.3% in 2009. The security brought about by the 2002 peace settlement has allowed the resettlement of 4 million displaced persons and a resulting large-scale increase in agriculture production. Angola's economy is expected to grow by 3.9% in 2014, said the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Robust growth in the non-oil economy, mainly driven by a very good performance in the agricultural sector, is expected to offset a temporary drop in oil production. Angola has diamonds, oil, gold, copper, and rich wildlife, which was dramatically depleted during the Civil War, forest, and fossil fuels. Since independence, oil and diamonds have been the most important economic resource. Smallholder and plantation agriculture dramatically dropped in the Angolan Civil War, but began to recover after 2002. Angola's economy has in recent years moved on from the disarray caused by a quarter century of the Angolan Civil War to become the fastest growing economy in Africa and one of the fastest growing in the world, with an average GDP growth of 20% between 2005 and 2007. In the period 2001 to 10, Angola had the world's highest annual average GDP growth at 11.1%. In 2017 was $59,175,902,494, a 2.33% increase from 2016. 2018 it was $63,217,528,197, a 6.83% increase from 2017. Angola's external debt for 2019 was $64,446,155,980, a 1.94% increase from 2018. And 2020 was $67,286,794,415, a 4.41% increase from 2019. Number 1. Liberia. Following a peak in growth in 1979, The Liberian economy began a steady decline due to economic mismanagement after the 1980 coup. This decline was accelerated by the outbreak of civil war in 1989. GDP was reduced by an estimated 90% between 1989 and 1995, one of the fastest declines in modern history. Upon the end of the war in 2003, GDP growth began to accelerate, reaching 9.4% in 2007. The global financial crisis slowed GDP growth to 4.6% in 2009, though a strengthening agricultural sector led by rubber and timber exports increased growth to 5.1% in 2010 and an expected 7.3% in 2011, making the economy one of the 20 fastest growing in the world. Current impediments to growth include a small domestic market, lack of adequate infrastructure, high transportation costs, poor trade links with neighboring countries, and the high dollarization of the economy. Liberia used the United States dollar as its currency from 1943 until 1982 and continues to use the US dollar alongside the Liberian dollar. Following a decrease in inflation beginning in 2003, inflation spiked in 2008 as a result of worldwide food and energy crisis, reaching 17.5% before declining to 7.4% in 2009. Liberia's external debt was estimated in 2006 at approximately $4.5 billion, 800% of GDP. As a result of bilateral, multilateral, and commercial debt relief from 2007 to 2010, the country's external debt fell to $222.9 million by 2011. By 2017, it was $1,122,234,392, a 17.8% increase from 2016. 2018, it was $1,163,396,935, a 3.67% increase from 2017. 2019, it was $1,296,390,617, an 11.43% increase from 2018. For 2020 was $1,480,598,762, a 14.21% increase from 2019. That's it for the African countries with the most external debts. Thanks for watching, guys. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting updates about Africa. Make sure to share.